All right, we're covering 8.0. This is a geometry review for solving right triangles. So solving right triangles, we're still using SOHCAHTOA. Okay. SOHCAHTOA, it's drawn for you or labels for you right here. This is kind of everything you have to know for SOHCAHTOA. So is opposite and hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tan is opposite over adjacent. That's SOHCAHTOA. Labeling your triangle, this is very, very important. Okay, this is probably the most important thing that's going to help you into the next lessons as well for law of sine, law of cosine. Capital letters are your angles, and lowercase letters are your sides. I'm going to kind of draw out what that means. I have a triangle. It doesn't necessarily have to be a right triangle, but for SOHCAHTOA, keep in mind when you're using SOHCAHTOA, this is only right triangles. So for this lesson, we're only using right triangles, but for law of sine, law of cosine, it does not have to be a right triangle. So letters, what letters are you using? You're using A, B, and C. These are my angles. Capital letters are angles, lowercase letters are your sides. Now, again, those are the only three letters I'm using. Where do they go? Lowercase a is opposite from uppercase A. I have capital A, lowercase a. C, it's opposite of your capital letter. So capital C, lowercase c. And then B is going to go down here. Again, they're opposites of each other. So if I'm looking at this, I have A, uppercase A, lowercase a and uppercase a. I have B, uppercase B, lowercase b, and C. Okay, so they're opposites of each other. That's something you have to remember. Now, solve for all of the missing angles and sides. When it says solve the right triangle, you're finding all sides and angles. Okay, and you're going to see that in the examples. Looking at this example, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label. Okay, well, I'll actually read the directions. It says solve the right triangle. So when it's asking me to just solve the right triangle, that means I have to find all sides and angles. Okay, so I have to fill everything up, and they want me to round to the nearest tenth, which is no problem. Okay, labeling what I have. Looking at what I have. They're giving me angle A, which is 31.67. Okay, this is a right triangle. They're giving me that little right angle right here. I'm kind of just drawing over it to make it a little darker. And side A. Okay, so you have to remember, opposite of capital A is lowercase a. Opposite of C is lowercase c, and opposite of B is lowercase b. So I'm just going to go ahead and label those. They're giving me side A, which is 35.9. Now, what do I have to find? I have to go ahead and try and find angle B, and I have to go ahead and try and find side C. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in pink. And I have to find side B. So those are the three things I have to find. I put them in different colors so you can see me solving them. Now, how do I find those? The angle is the easiest one to find because this is a right triangle. Okay, we also know triangles. What is the measure of a triangle on the inside? We should know it's 180. So if they're giving me 90 out of my 180, these two added together must also equal 90. So how am I solving for B? Angle B, I'm solving it as 90 minus 31.67. Go ahead and plug that in on your calculators. If you solved correctly, you should have had 58.3, rounding to the nearest tenth. So this is my answer for angle B. I'm just going to go ahead and write it in. 35.3 degrees. And now I have to go ahead and solve C and D. So the reason why we have to know SOHCAHTOA is that's what we're using to try and find what's missing. So I'm just going to go ahead and write it up here. SOHCAHTOA. And always use what's given to you, meaning we solved for this angle. So I'm going to go ahead and I am using what they gave me, which is right here. So if I'm using this angle, what do I have? I have my hypotenuse, I have my opposite side, and I have my adjacent side. Okay? SOHCAHTOA is telling me what I have to find. I have my angle A. I know I have an opposite side. And let's go ahead and solve for B first. Okay, opposite and adjacent. I'm going to go ahead and use tangent for B. Okay, so I'm underlining that one in orange. That's what I'm solving for my orange side. So I'm going to have tan the angle 31.67 equals opposite, which is 35.9. over my adjacent side, which is B. Whenever you have your variable as your denominator, go ahead and switch these two. Okay, what is that going to look like? It's going to be 35.9 over tan 31.67. Plug that into your calculator. All right, your answers should have been 58.2, that's rounded to the nearest tenth, km. So this should have been your answer. All right, solving for the next one, we're going to go ahead and find C. So again, I'm looking at the angle that I have. I have my opposite, and I'm solving for my hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and use sine. I have sine 31.67 equals my opposite, which is 35.9 over my hypotenuse. And again, because my C is at the bottom, I'm just going to go ahead and switch these two. So I have 35.9 over sine 31.67, and this would give you 68.4 km. Yeah, if you want and you want to write it with what it equals, you can go ahead and write that this is B and this one's C, just so you know that's what we're using. All right, looking at the next example, again, it says solve the right triangle, so I have to find everything, round my answer to the nearest tenth, and let's go ahead and label. So again, this is a right triangle. There's my right angle. Going ahead and labeling what I have or writing in. B, they told me, was 47.8 degrees. And C, this is where lowercase c goes. This is where lowercase a is. And lowercase b, C is 89.6. And finding what we can. I can definitely find my angle. Okay, so I'm solving for angle A. Angle A is going to be 90 minus 47.8. And if you subtract correctly, it's going to be 42.2. Don't forget that degree sign because it is in degrees. And that would be my answer for angle B. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in. Okay, now solving for my sides. Yes, it is angle A, sorry. Now solving for my sides. I'm going to go ahead and use what they gave me. So using what they gave me right here is going to be angle B. And according to angle B, this is my opposite side, this is my adjacent side, and this is my hypotenuse. Okay, and that's telling me what I'm using for SOHCAHTOA. So writing it, I have SOHCAHTOA. And now I could solve for A and B. Let's go ahead and do A first. So looking at A, that's what I'm solving for. Side A. Okay. I have H. I have my hypotenuse, and I'm solving for my adjacent side. Hypotenuse and adjacent, I'm going to use cosine. So I have cosine my angle, which is 47.8, equals my adjacent side, which I don't know, I'm just representing as A, over my hypotenuse, which is 89.6. Now for this one, because what I'm solving for, my variables at the top, in order for me to get rid of dividing by 89.6, I have to multiply both sides by 89.6. That's going to cancel out, and I'm multiplying this side by 89.6. Go ahead and plug that into your calculator, and if you plugged it in correctly, side A is going to be 60.2 centimeters. I'm just going to go ahead and write that in, 60.2. That is, again, rounded, and that's my answer for side A. All right, looking at the next one, trying to solve for side B. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that one orange. Again, I'm using angle 27.8. I have my hypotenuse. I'm trying to solve for my opposite side, so I'm going to go ahead and use sine my angle, which is 47.8, equals opposite, which is B, over my hypotenuse, which is 89.6, and again, same thing. Multiply it to both sides. These are going to cancel out. 89.6, and plug it into your calculator. If you solved it correctly, B is going to equal 66.4 centimeters. So not too difficult. All right, looking at this example, it says solve the right triangle given C is the right angle. So that's super important for you to know. C is the right angle, so I'm going to draw it because I'm a visual. I like to draw it. So drawing my triangle, I'm going to go ahead and just zoom in on number 3. Here's my right triangle, and they're telling me C is my right angle. So here's my right angle. Here's C. It does not matter where you put A and B. Okay, I'm going to put A at the top, B at the bottom. So that means this is lowercase a, this is lowercase c, and this is lowercase b. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and fill in what they gave me. This is 61 degrees, and B is 39.2. Okay, finding my angle. That should be pretty easy because there's no decimals. Angle B is 90 minus 61, which gives me 29 degrees. Okay, so at least we got one. Now I have to go ahead and solve for A, and I have to solve for C using what they gave me. So using angle A and whatever they gave me for my sides. This is my adjacent side. This is my hypotenuse side. This is my opposite side. I'm using SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. And solving for A. A is my opposite side according to angle 61. They're giving me my adjacent, so I have to use opposite and adjacent. So I'm going to have tan 61 equals my opposite, I don't know, and my adjacent is 39.2. Going ahead and solving, switching these orders. Or you know what, not switching these orders, because my variable's at the top, I'm going to multiply 39.2, 39.2, and all you have to do is plug it in on your calculator. 39.2 times tan 61, and if you solved it correctly, A is going to be 70.7 centimeters. Okay, please make sure you're plugging it in correctly. All right, now solving for the last side, which is C. C is my hypotenuse, and I'm given my adjacent side, so I'm going to go ahead and use cosine. So now I have cosine 61 equals adjacent, which is 39.2, over my hypotenuse, which is C. Now this one, because my variable's at the bottom, I'm just going to go ahead and switch the order. 39.2 over cosine 61 plugging that into my calculator. If you plugged it in correctly, you should have had 80.9 centimeters, and that should have been your answer for C. All right, looking at 4, we're gonna do the same thing. C is still my right angle. So drawing it out, here's my right triangle. Here's that right angle. This is C, A, B, lowercase a, lowercase b, lowercase c. You don't have to write them directly in the middle, as long as you know where they go. So all I have to do now is label what are they giving me. This is 46 degrees. C is 29.7. And then just finding what we have. So solving this angle, angle A, all I have to do is subtract 90 minus 46. I'm going to get 44 degrees, and that's for angle A. Solving for A and solving for B. I'm going to use again what they gave me. 46, I have my hypotenuse, I have my adjacent side, I have my opposite side, and I'm using SOHCAHTOA. Remember, you could only use SOHCAHTOA for right triangles, and this is a right triangle. So using SOHCAHTOA, let's go ahead and do A first. I have my hypotenuse and I'm solving for my adjacent side, so I'm using cosine. I have cosine 46 equals adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 29.7, and multiply both sides by 29.7. 29.7 times cosine 46, A is going to equal 20.6 meters. And then solving for B, I'm looking for opposite, and I have my hypotenuse, so I'm going to go ahead and use sine. So I have sine 46 equals opposite, which is B, over hypotenuse is 29.7, and multiply like we did for the other one. 29.7, these cancel out. 29.7, so 29.7 times sine 46, B is going to equal 21.4 meters, and that would be my answer for B. So I found my angle, and I found my two missing sides. So for this one, same thing, we're still going to go ahead and draw a right triangle, where our right angle is still C. And then just label your capital A and your capital B. I have lowercase a, lowercase b, lowercase c. All right, filling everything in. Now I have lowercase a, which is 90 or 958, and lowercase b is 489. Just drawing that right angle so I don't forget. Now for this one, you could see that they're not giving you your angle. So what you have to do is you have to use the inverse of your trig ratios. So I have SOHCAHTOA, and depending on the angle tells us which one we're using. So let's go ahead and find angle B first. So if I'm looking at angle B, this is considered my adjacent, this is considered my opposite, and this is my hypotenuse. So which one has opposite and adjacent? My tan, my TOA. So I'm going to use the inverse of tan times opposite, which is 489, over your adjacent, which is 958. And that's what you're plugging into your calculator. All right, if you rounded correctly, you should have had 27 degrees. And then it's super easy for me to find angle A. So finding angle A, all I have to do is subtract. So angle A is 90 minus 27. And if you solved correctly, that's going to be 63 degrees. So just going ahead and writing that in, and then finding C last. So finding C is the same way we did before. Because I already have everything labeled, I'm just going to use angle 27. So using angle 27, I'm trying to find my hypotenuse. I'm trying to find that hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and use cosine. So I have cosine 27 equals my adjacent, which is 958, over my hypotenuse, which is C. And because it's as my denominator, I'm going to switch these. I'm going to have 958 over cosine 27. Plug that into your calculator. All right, if you plugged it in, 958 over cosine 27, you should have had rounding to the nearest tenth, 1075.2. And that's your answer for C. So again, you just have to know what you're plugging in and what you're trying to find. This one's a little bit more challenging because you have to use that inverse. This is super important to find your angle. Going ahead and going to number 6. So still doing the same thing, drawing that right triangle where C is your right angle. So here's C, here's my right angle. I have A, I have B. Angles are capital, sides are lowercase. Lowercase a, lowercase b, and lowercase c. They're my opposites. Labeling what I have, A is 26.5 and C is 39.7. Trying to find my angles, I have to go ahead and again, I'm using SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. Let's go ahead and find angle A first. So angle A, this is my adjacent, this is my opposite, and this is my hypotenuse. I have my hypotenuse and I have my opposite. According to angle A, I'm going to use sine. So I have the inverse of sine times opposite, 26.5, over hypotenuse, 39.7. Plug that into your calculator, rounding to the nearest tenth. If you rounded correctly, you should have had 41.9 degrees. And going ahead and filling that one in. Okay, finding angle B should be pretty easy. All you have to do is subtract 90 minus 41.9. You're going to get 48.1 degrees. And then solving for B, lowercase b. I'm going to go ahead and use angle A because I already have everything labeled. Okay, so for that, angle A is 41.9. I'm trying to solve for my adjacent side. Let's go ahead and use tan. I'm going to use tan. 41.9. You didn't necessarily have to use tan. You could have used cosine because you're solving for adjacent. You have your hypotenuse, but it's up to you. We're still going to get the same answer. So I have tan 41.9 equals opposite, which is 26.5, over my adjacent, which is B. Because it's on the denominator, I'm going to go ahead and switch these two. 26.5 over tan 41.9. And once you plug it in, you should have had 29.5 as your answer for side A. And that's it. I'm sorry, side B. You're right. Side B, it's just my adjacent. So I will just go ahead and write in that this is B, lowercase b.